The Horse Player Now, a tag team of Joe Christopher and Brian W. Spencer, taking a look at two of our favorite races of the season at Arlington Park. The card Saturday, September the 8th, hosts 9 races, including a couple of stakes for 2-year-old Spence. We've got the Grade 3 Lassie and the Grade 3 Futurity. Both run over a 1-turn mile, and both came up pretty good. Some great betting races on tap.
Yeah, I think the Lassie is probably one of the most difficult races to get a handle on top to bottom. Seems like it could fall any number of ways. Some interesting horses with proven form, some horses who did well in their early starts but now get tested for class.
We're going to take these races in chronological order. So the 7th race is the Futurity for the boys. And the 2-1 morning line favorite on the rail, Spence, is Muppet Man, who has made a mockery of the two fields he has faced thus far, winning by a combined 8 lengths. And a key race, obviously, in this one moving forward into the Futurity is the Meadow Lake, run at Arlington on August the 4th, won easily by Muppet Man. What did you think of the performance and maybe some of the other horses that finished behind him?
Well, I think that any conversation about this race has to start with Muppet Man. I mean, he's been so impressive in those 2 races. I liked that he didn't have to take it to him out of the gate last time, sat in that second position before taking over, and then just drawing off, opening a big lead, and easily holding. It doesn't seem like the mile's going to be much of a problem for him. In that regard, I think that that was a pretty good race. Perhaps out of that race, he might be the one that might be the only one I'm really that interested in. But at the very least, you can't discount him, even if you don't love what ran behind him.
I totally agree with you. So let's take a look at some of the new shooters in the race, and we'll start with the 3 Pataki Kid, who was 3rd in the debut at Churchill in a good race, and the horse was 40-1 and got a typical Proctor kind of first race out, an improved second start, as many of the Proctors do. This horse was a very game in victory and defeated a nice horse by the name of Tulura Castle, who has since come back to impress in his own right in his very next start in scoring his maiden victory.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these are sort of about company lines and the strength of races these horses are exiting. At the quarter pole, if you asked me if Pataki Kid was going to win or be any kind of contender in the Futurity in his last race, I would have laughed at you. And then he came with that really strong, just kind of grinding close, refused to quit. And I think that is the kind of horse who just, knows what his job is. He likes to keep running, and that's going to come in handy here. He looks like the most interesting new shooter on paper to me. And then maybe we can talk about that filly from the Von Hemel barn, who was a little unlucky in her last start, and that actually cost her a place in the Lassie because she didn't qualify on earnings or weight because she's still a maiden. But she seems to fit pretty well here, and she had a really tough trip last time out.
Yeah, back to Pataki Kid real quick. Interesting that Garrett Gomez is coming to ride. And then you've got Scissortail G, who you've been rambling on about as you were talking about laughing at other people's horses. But Scissortail G, Spence, is a horse that's progressive for Donnie Von Hemel, and he's upset. The guy's mad. He didn't get into the Lassie. It's a 14-horse race, so he said, you know what? We're going to pay the supplementary fee and go into the Futurity. He must like her chances here.
And that's the thing I like, is in that first race, she it seemed like she learned some lessons. And in that second race, like I said, trouble at the top of the stretch. She steadied. She got shuffled all the way back. And then she came with a big late finish. And I think she's the winner in that race if she doesn't have trouble. And funny enough, you get the feeling that there's a slight chance if Muppet Man doesn't fire his best race and doesn't win this one, getting excluded from the Lassie may have been the best thing to happen to her. She seems to be working well. Von Hemel wouldn't have thrown her in here if he didn't think she had any kind of chance against the boys, and this may actually work in her favor.
Well, she's 15-1 on the morning line, so get some if you can. My Loot is another horse that must seriously be considered here, Spence. I tried to beat this horse in the local debut, but the horse was very impressive to me. Was pulling, was in a tough spot between horses, was caught at the quarter pole looking for somewhere to run, and then once the horse shook free, was very professional and very impressive in winning by 2 1/4 lengths. James Graham stays for Tom Amos, and the horse has posted some fast work since, so tough to poke holes in My Loot.
Yeah, I agree there, and you see that good second against Stakes Company at Prairie Meadows prior to that, and had a little bit of trouble in that race, so then came back and dominated some maidens, and then maybe you never know what to make of a horse like Urban Renewal coming in from, races at Thistledown, River Downs, but is stakes place. Cisco Torres does see fit to sign on, so maybe if you're just looking to cover a couple extra numbers, but does seem to have his work out for him a little bit against what you would presume is tougher competition that he's seen so far.
We will presume nothing. Let's move on to race number 8. This is the Arlington, Washington Lassie, 1 mile for the fillies. And the first time I made the morning line for this race, Spence, I had 165 points. I had to reduce. Very difficult. I settled on a 4-1 morning line favorite actually a 9-2 morning line favored in Gold Edge, the winner, the Lisa M. Are you for the Lisa M, Spencer, or are you against that race?
Well, looking back in the futurity, we said I'm at the very least for the winner of the Meadow Lake. I feel like I'm gonna look silly saying this. You got a stakes winner in there, but I'm pretty much totally against the Lisa M, top to bottom.
Me too. So now that we got that out of the way, I mean, the horses are good. Bridget Bordeaux, I think, is an Illinois bred filly with some promise. Gold Edge, take nothing away from her. She's 2 for 2, but there are some really good horses coming in for this race potentially. You have to wait and see, but the horse that I'm going to throw out at you first is a horse whose replay I recently reviewed, and that was Papa Scat, who won on July 22nd at Ellis Park by 7.5 lengths in the debut, bet down to odds of 3-5, ran on grass that day, and ran off the screen. I was extremely impressed visually. What do you think, buddy?
I think I'm probably pretty much the total opposite. I think if you just take it at face value visually, sure, it's very impressive. Obviously, she was very well meant. She took a lot of action. The thing that really gets me about that is that the runner-up in that race is a horse named Dixie Devon, who I followed at Churchill. She's not much, and she was running second throughout that race. So I think that for me, those widening margins late are not so much Papa Scat being so great, it's her running away from a horse who's clearly overmatched, and when you dig further into that field, it doesn't get any prettier. So, very capable. Sims won the filly version and the colt version of the juvenile stakes at Churchill this at their summer meeting. So obviously very capable with these horses stepping up into 2-year-old stakes company. But I would need a pretty nice price there to be enticed.
I started at 12-1, and after I watched that replay, I went down to 8-1. The horse might be less than that. I'm hoping not, because I think I'm going to go to the window on Papa Scat. You can't help who you beat, and this horse is visually impressive, and the horse was never really asked in the stretch, so good-looking animal, straight as a string. I think Papa Scat has a very, very bright future. Another Ellis Park horse whose replay I watched was Dancing in the Circle. 3.25 length win, was handy, pressed 3 wide, geared down late for Larry Jones, who's very good with juveniles as well. This horse breaking from the rail has a pretty decent post position. Any opinions on that horse?
I actually think this one may kind of trip out, has enough pace to, sit along the rail, maybe wind up in that pocket, maybe fourth or fifth, prompting those splits inside and maybe just looking for a seam late with a red-hot riding Rosemary Homeister in the irons. I think I would lean towards the Jones horse over the Sims horse, perhaps at my own risk, given the way Sims has been winning 2-year-old stakes, but just not so impressed with the horse on the outside. And Larry Jones, you can expect probably this horse will move up a little bit too.
Well, Spencer and I have no disgrace in making side bets amongst each other off camera, so I smell one brewing in this race. Bring it to me with whoever you want in this race, Spencer. I'm going to take Papa Scat. Horse I'm a little bit interested in, and I think maybe you might be as well, is Flying Rapunzel of the remaining local horses. She won very impressively last time out, and she seems to have a shot in here. Catalano's not a bad trainer.
We don't need to make it off camera. Flying Rapunzel versus Papa Scat, you're on. I think Catalano's got a really good one here. That second out win was really impressive. Miguel Mena stays there and, just working lights out. 2 bullets in a row coming into this. I think this one's got a ton of upside. I loved her last, and I think she's going to, in the end, prove the one to beat here in the Lassie.
All right, well, we'll do the financials after this video is over, but next week, if Papa Scat beats Flying Rapunzel 1-2-3 versus your horse 1-2-3, you've got to wear a Chicago Blackhawks hat on the air.
You know what? That's going to be fine for me, and I'll think of some similar punishment for the Colorado Avalanche for you if you lose.
All right, that sounds good. Any other horses you want to talk about here? I'm pretty much done.
I think we pretty much covered it. I think we knock a lot of them out of the way just by saying that I'm against the Lisa M top to bottom. I'm not particularly interested in any of the horses there in this race. Some of them are plenty talented, but I just don't think I like them very much on Saturday.
Well, Alex Solis comes in to ride the Woodbine Invaders Sweet Redemption. It'll be interesting to see what kind of action that horse takes off of winning a stake race in the career debut. For Brian W. Spencer, I'm Joe Christofek. Have a great weekend. We'll see you out at Arlington for Futurity and Lassie Day Saturday, September the 8th.